Firstly, I want to say welcome everyone for joining, or welcome everyone that is joining or tuning into the recording. I'm Jacob Lecinski, the Ventures Manager of VentureCrowd, and I'm delighted to be hosting this chat with Tom and Kat Long, co-founders of TomKat Global Solutions. Also, Peter Banfield's here, who advises the company on strategy and investment. So Peter brings more than 30 years of global experience in food and packaging. He's also led innovation in Visy and other major companies. More recently, he's focused on sustainability, serving on the US advisory board that brings together academics, brands, and experts, where he provides a vital commercial perspective. Peter often says that Tom and Kat are a truly unique case, something you've never seen in the corporate world. They knew the answer, but had to reinvent everything to get there. And in doing so, they built a team most companies could only really dream of assembling. Together with the rest of the executive team, they're the driving force behind Koolpak, breakthrough innovation in sustainable cold chain packaging. Now, today we'll explore how they're scaling globally, the mission behind the product, and what's next for TomKat. TomKat have developed a patented, reusable packaging solution to replace single-use polystyrene boxes used in temperature-sensitive transport. It significantly reduces landfill waste and CO2 emissions while outperforming traditional packaging. So essentially a win for both business and the planet. And through VentureCrowd, investors now have the opportunity to back a proven circular economy leader, a company combining profit, purpose, and performance in an industry ripe for disruption. So if you have any questions throughout this session and webinar, please drop them in the chat below and I'll kind of get to them throughout. But we're going to start with an overview from Tom and Kat and a presentation on TomKat. So fantastic to have everybody here. I'll pass it over to you guys.
Okay, so I would like to join Jacob in thanking everybody for joining us today. I'm Kat, this is Tom, therefore we get the TomKat. So basically a overview of the opportunity that we're offering today. We're going into this raise with a pre-money valuation of AUD 15 million. The total raise that we're trying to get in this Series A is $9 million, which will be a combination of 5 million equity and 4 million secured debt. Of the 5 million equity, we have got strong interest in 3 million in strategic investment from high-end users of the Koolpak, and that will be supplemented by our hopeful 2 million raise with VentureCrowd. So basically, the cold chain industry is a really, really large potential market. In 2023, it was valued at about $27.4 billion US. Now that's forecast to grow to $85 billion US by 2032, which is a very significant growth. We're protected by 5 patent families. These are defensible and they are international and national patents. Koolpak has validated reuse, and this has led to quite a number of indicative offtake agreements, which I can elaborate on throughout this presentation. Significantly, earlier this year, we received Thai Board of Investment approval and financial incentives to establish manufacturing in the Chonburi district in Thailand. And this raise is also working toward seeing success in that goal. Recently, we have signed an exclusive supply agreement with our principal material supplier, Thai Sekisui and Sekisui Foam Australia, which is also very significant. And then the other really exciting opportunity is the opportunity for turnkey licensing of our intellectual property, which will unlock additional revenue as we grow and scale globally. So at Koolpak, we often say that we believe in the 3 C's: courage, conviction, collaboration. And the collaboration is what has brought Tom and I and our team to this point where we are today, we're just the tip of the iceberg. Throughout the years, we have systematically surrounded ourselves with individuals and companies who are key leaders within their own fields. And even what you're looking at this screen really only just touches the surface. We have people who are leaders in plastics, recycling, food safety, machinery design, development and building, project development, and you know the list goes on. You can take a closer look at the team in detail on our website, koolpakbox.com. So, you know, this is a global opportunity because it's addressing a global problem. Polystyrene has long been the principal material in cold chain logistics because it is thermally efficient. However, it's also considered a very problematic plastic. Polystyrene breaks down. It's in our waterways, it's in our landfill, it's infiltrated the food chain. There is strong global momentum toward legislation for packaging to be recyclable, reusable or compostable. And, you know, the announcement from New South Wales is bringing that back into the forefront. Polystyrene theoretically is recyclable, but it is a problematic plastic to recycle. It cannot be recycled at scale. The legislation is not just here in Australia. Australia is not on target to reach its 2025 National Plastics Plan. And this momentum is spreading throughout the world: Europe, the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, parts of Southeast Asia, all trying to get rid of polystyrene. The world needs an alternative. Koolpak is the solution. So Koolpak, we're offering a system. It's reuse first packaging. Koolpak has been designed for high frequency extended reuse. It has proven thermal performance. You can monitor the temperature inside the box without needing to remove the lid. The durable modular design means that the components are independently replaceable. When it is new life ready, it's 100% recyclable. And in addition, it's flat packable. It's got multiple leak-proof layers. We've got airline approval. But, you know, the real magic beyond the widget is the system that surrounds it. And that's the third picture that in the series there, which is our unique track and trace. We're always looking at different ways of meeting market demand. The demand is there. Initially, the Koolpak system was designed for air freight because that was what we needed within our own sustainable fishing business. Not everybody needs air freight. So we've also been having discussions with alternative ways of using Koolpak, for example, perhaps in a collapsible, reusable crate, but still getting that benefit from the track and trace. Our IP is our moat. As I mentioned in the overview, we have 5 patent families. They're international. In every family that we have ever put out there, we've never had any rejections. So far we have filed 41 patents in 13 countries. It shows how quickly things are changing. The day before yesterday, we had another one granted. So now there's 9 granted and 32 pending. And that just shows how quickly everything is. Tom often likes to say that our patent family is like an onion, where patent family 1 protects the outer box. It's the outer layer of the onion. And then as we go through the process for forming the container, the apparatus for forming the blank, the improvements to the heat sealing jaws, and then the origami fold for our thermal liner, each patent family gives stronger and stronger protection. And that's been extended by the exclusive supply agreement, which I mentioned in the overview. Not only does that guarantee us supply from Sekisui, but it also means that Sekisui can only supply their superior physically cross-linked foam to us, which means that imitation is going to be very, very, very difficult. And if someone did try to imitate the Koolpak, they're not just then going to be defending against TomKat Global Solutions. We're going to have Sekisui in our court protecting us there as well. So that's really significant. The pipeline of prospects is also changing very, very rapidly. So we are in advanced discussions on investment with interested impact and strategic investors in Thailand, Indonesia, and Australia. And just yesterday, an Indonesian businessman was discussing with us how he would like to roll out a leasing model within his own logistics company with a very, very large retail outlet in Indonesia. We are progressing discussions on investment with another of our Koolpak key component suppliers. So Sekisui has invested in us. They're a lead investor, but one of the other key suppliers under NDA is progressing their own due diligence. We've got indicative offtake discussions on Koolpak supply with interested companies in Thailand, Indonesia, the United States, which is a really exciting one. We'll give a little bit more information on that, and Australia. And then there's also that opportunity for IP licensing, which I mentioned in the overview. So let's have a look at a few highlights. So the case study we completed with CP Foods in Thailand. They're one of Thailand's largest companies and a global industry leader. And, you know, Koolpak is for any temperature sensitive or perishable product, but it was logical for Tom and I to start in the seafood sector. Not only is that going to be the most challenging, but it's where the driver for this whole product began, because our background is also in seafood. And I don't think anything is going to get much more difficult than putting shrimp directly into a liner. So that particular liner that you see there, as well as the antimicrobial film, has an extra high barrier protection against pricking. The app was used to validate the Koolpak for over 30 reuses. Now, this material that's out there has somehow started a narrative that Koolpak is useful for 30 reuses. This trial validated it for over 30 reuses. The Koolpak is designed for high-frequency extended reuse. This trial only finished at 30 because they had tripled the objective of the trial at that point. And this trial has led to an indicative offtake agreement for potentially 1 million Koolpaks in the first instance, and that could lead to an AUD 30 million in gross sales value. Pete, did you have something you wanted to contribute?
Yes, I was going to say, though, the prawns, I know that market, and spikes and all, and the whole system was stressed to the max. So stopping at 30 is because they just stopped. You know, it could have gone to 60.
Precisely, absolutely. Thanks, Pete. So this is the exciting USA opportunity. So Koolpak has always been about keeping things cool. This particular company, a leading premium service restaurant in the United States, they reached out to us, and I've never been there, but this particular company gets really, really, really rave reviews. They've got over 3,000 restaurants in the United States. They're expanding into Singapore this year, into Europe next year. And they reached out to us because they want the purchaser at home to get exactly the same experience for a home delivery as they do if they go to the restaurant. But they're delivering food warm. So there's two problems or two potential issues here for the company. Not only do they need to keep the food warm without it sweating, but also they need to make sure that they're protecting the product within from bacteria. So after 3 attempts, we have finally managed to get a number of Koolpaks over to the United States, and they're starting their trial on Koolpak keeping food warm as we speak. And that could potentially double our whole potential market size. So that is really exciting.
What's exciting about that also is it enables the company who are quality focused in the US, they can track and trace exactly where the boxes are, and they can also trace or track the temperature shift within the box, and when it was delivered. So that's the extra value that they're looking for, which makes it unique.
Absolutely. And the Tangaroa expansion is interesting. If you've seen any of the little snippets that have been going around social media, and I'm sure you have, the Christmas Island trial, although they only did 3 cycles, was really, really significant because it was a difficult target market going from Perth to Christmas Island, keeping everything in cold chain. And just within the trial, they replaced just under 270 polystyrene boxes. And that trial was so significant that they now want to roll that out through the Cape area and then ultimately into the resorts along the Great Barrier Reef, which is actually, sort of our backyard, well, for now.
But what's exciting about that is that the archipelagos of Indonesia and Philippines have got thousands of similar instances where they can replicate that trial and do it as well. So that's where the interest is out of Indonesia.
Absolutely. So, our go-to-market strategy, we've rolled it out in phases. So we've got phase 1 where we're looking at 2026, all milestones being met. That will lead into our expansion in 2027, and then a global scale in 2028. And the numbers climb exponentially. So when we go to Thailand, we're going to be taking all of our existing pilot plant with us, which we can roll out almost immediately because we're not building a factory, we're leasing a facility. So, but that is a limited production of about 30,000 Koolpaks within that first period. And we're being very, very strategic about who we are supplying those Koolpaks to. We do have some potential buyers who would quite happily take all of those 30,000, but we're not convinced that that's going to be our best strategy at this point in time. But even that 30,000 Koolpaks, that could generate about 900,000 in revenue and have significant reductions of emissions just in that first phase. While we've labelled phase 2 as phase 2 and expansion, it actually begins in parallel with phase 1. So all of the machinery, the new automation machinery, the machinery which is capable of scaling commercially, it's designed, it's ready to be built, it's been priced, we've got quotes. So as soon as we've got the necessary funding, that machinery will start being built, some of it here in Australia, some of it in Taiwan and Thailand, and then that will be commissioned as we roll out. So it's not necessarily a cut and dried January, December, it's an ongoing rollout of our capability to meet the existing demand. And I just want to add, and I meant to mention, during the pilot, we're working off a document which was being made in October, and we talked about the peaks, the pilot trial in the United States. We talked about CP Foods. Every single day we get emails in with new pipelines of opportunity. So I just wanted to demonstrate just this week we've received an email from one of the largest pharmaceutical wholesale distributors in Australia. We've received letters of interest from 2 bakeries, 2 first-class bakeries, and even from an exotic mushroom supplier. So the opportunities really are growing daily. We're going to jump to phase 3, and that really is our global scale. And by then, we will be automated. We will be able to produce approximately 2.5 million Koolpaks per year. And just thinking on a very, very, very conservative 10 reuses per Koolpak, that's very conservative. that would be 25 million polystyrene boxes that we're taking out of the system. And that just really excites me.
And that's per annum.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So that's it all in, you know, in financial terms. There's explaining the use of our funds. So the machinery alone will, we are very, very high capex, you know, that is the way of what is manufacturing is, especially clean manufacturing. So we're looking at about 5 million there for our manufacturing machinery, which, as I say, has already been designed, quoted. The Thailand company and factory establishment is going to require about 1 million. This is all Australian dollars. Tom and myself and our dog Tequila, we're going to Thailand. Our chief product manager, who has already extensive experience running a factory in Thailand, in Europe, in Australia, he'll be coming with his family. And then we will also need a working capital of about 3 million. Part of our Thai Board of Investment approvals and incentives, we need $4 million in invested capital in order to make this move. And as part of that, our commitment to the Thailand government is to employ and train and scale up a significant percentage of the Thai workforce. But the incentives are huge. So there's our factory layout. We won't press the automation, but if you get to the point where you do receive a deck, this automation is fantastic. It was done up by one of our team, Ed. And what's really exciting is this is what the picture you're looking at is phase 2. And then as we move into phase 3, all those people that are standing around, a lot of those disappear because we're going into automation, we're going into robotics. And this is the really, really exciting bit. So for us personally, this is the point where we could realistically come back to Australia, whether it's us or whether it's another company, under that licensing opportunity, because by the time we've got those robotics, some of the higher labour costs, which, you know, are a bit of a hurdle here in Australia, in the United States, in Europe, they will be ironed out because of the robotics. And that's the point where I think that, I think that's the next slide, actually. Yep, no, keep going. So the financials have been very, very, very well scrutinised. Tom is the expert on financials, and I think he will talk to that a little bit later, or did you want to say something now?
I can jump in now. So from that, you can see it's quite clear. In 2026, we're using our pilot machinery. We're building those sales funnels to select and key market players. And then we bring online the phase 2 in 2027, which really gives us the first scalable commercial manufacture, larger volume, 1.1 million units. And we've got the first, you know, attractive EBITDA numbers there, 8.5 million. But what you can clearly see is when we go to phase 3 and we do the automation, we're noting that we're using the existing equipment, just simply the automation integration, just a significant jump all round. We jumped from 1.1 to 2.5 million units, and the EBITDA figures speak for themselves. And when we get to that point, you've got your turnkey solution, you've got a global audience, and a great opportunity for the next step in the project. And so this really is with my background's construction, always aspired to be a fisherman, but this is our implementation step with machinery build on a Gantt chart, gives you the timeline, etc. And so what we're looking at is relocating our 2 sea containers January 2026, pulling that pilot machinery out, putting it in operation and use. And then we're committing to the purchase of machinery, noting that the machinery designs, as Kath had said, have been done. Those designs were supported by Queensland government as well as the federal government through various grants, etc., to do those designs. A significant amount of that machinery is Australian made and designed, and it's a staged installation. So in parallel, we're making boxes with our pilot machinery. We're installing dual sealers, press and things like that, and then we're commissioning them at a staged approach, which takes the stress out of trying to bring a whole factory online as a single step. And then any one of those pieces of machinery can be producing and doing its own task as we do, and then we get to our our commissioning of our phase 3 and index to a calendar year.
Jump back on. Okay, so this is a good place, I guess, for us to exit, where we talk about the exit strategy, and that little visual there, I love that. The arm belongs to Michael Grimer, who has been involved in the packaging industry for a very, very long time. Correct me if I'm wrong, he used to be the president of the Australian Packaging Association.
Australian Institute of Packaging, and he also ran the master's course at Melbourne University.
So we believe that 2026 is going to generate a lot of interest from some of the higher value, larger companies who have been watching us for quite some time. Then 2027 looks interesting. The numbers become very attractive, assuming milestones are met. But 2028 is where we see significant returns forecast. And we believe that that would be the ideal timing to look at potential exit strategies. So obviously we could look at the merger, acquisition, opportunities there. If you just got that, thank you.
Yeah.
So sorry. So we'd look at, trade sale, acquisitions, or even potential IPO at that point, because by the end of 2028, as we said, we're going to be fully robotic, automated, and we're going to be ready to be leasing IP and making moves. So we will move now back to, unless Peter had a final word.
No, you covered it pretty well.
Cool.
Only pretty well.
Awesome.
No, you've covered it very well. Now, one thing I will say is that even in the short period of this year, so much is happening so quickly, is those numbers are based on today, and the market's moving, actually accelerating quicker than we thought it would, as well as, the legislations and these sorts of things. So these are conservative numbers. They're not rocket science to know they can be, quite often, half as much more or even double.
Yeah.
Okay, stop. Yep.
That was great. Really appreciate it. Excellent effort going through all that. Now, there's a ton of questions that have actually come through here. So I've kind of just categorized them firstly, so we don't kind of jump around and skip around a bit. So I'm going to start with one of the first questions here, which is more so around the founders, you guys, and your team. And it was just to give us a little bit more flavor about that, a little bit more about the backgrounds, the people involved, reasons why they started in this business and why they believe that this is the team to win in the market.
Okay. What's really reassuring is quite a number of our team invested in the project. They brought their skill set and determination to move the project forward. And an example of one of our team members, they were the pioneers of bag sealing machines in Australia. Father started back in the 50s, and the son has taken over the business. And so they, in combination with TomKat, assist on the design and development of our sealing technology, which led to our sealing jaw patent being filed. So you're looking at people that have real insight into the global industry. And then you have the likes of Ed Bacon, as Kath said. So he was with Tripac in the UK. He was the instigator of their largest single sale of product. He developed a product for them. It was their largest single sale at that time, and it remains to this date. So that's just
it's funny actually. I love that question. I kind of was thinking about that myself this morning, and I was trying to work out how many of our team came in as investors and are now working under service agreements, or how many started working under service agreements and have become investors. And it's actually become about 50-50. So the two Tom mentioned just then, but the other thing too is, when we started in 2018, really as a two-man band, and Pete Horvat, who has not joined us now, but is very much integral part of our team, we pretty much have every single person that came on board in 2018 is still with us. So our attrition rate is very, very, very minuscule. One of the other ones that I would like to highlight is our app developer, blockchain, all things IoT, smart technology, Alexei Dubrovin. He's been with us since the very beginning, and over 5, 6, 7 years between Alexei, Tom, and a company called SAG, they've developed the temperature sensor tag, which does not exist on the shelf. You cannot buy our temperature sensor tag, and it's gone from being about twice this big to this, battery free. Tom literally froze this in the deep freeze the other day and scanned the temperature just to prove that it could be done. I've scanned it through his hand. People like Peter Banfield, Michael Grimer, we mentioned, Dr. Jonathan Medicine, Food Waste Australia. The website really tells the story, because I hate talking about individuals and then forgetting somebody really important. Daryl, the plastics man.
That's really good. Great explanation there. I'm going to move on to some questions that are focused more around the product and technology now, and just give you an idea of how many we've got. It's about 5 here to get through, and then a few more. Any questions that we don't get through, we'll detail and share with this audience as well. So don't worry about that, but we'll try and get through it all. So the first question around product and technology is, what is the product lining made of, and what makes it superior for temperature to existing packaging solutions?
Okay, so we use polyethylene. It's a foam. What distinguishes our product from the majority on the market is it's a physically cross-linked polyethylene foam. The interesting bit about that is Seksui developed the technology to cross-link back in the late 1960s. They're the global dominant producer of the material, and in combination with high barrier films, they're thermally laminated. What that means in simple terms is, if you envisage bubble wrap and you poke a hole in it, you have a void. We have a material that's closed cell, high barrier, FDA approved in the US, food grade, and so it's a premium product to start with. It's also flexible, moisture resistant, durable. It's a great material to work with. The majority market is chemically cross-linked, which is easier product to produce, but not of the same caliber.
Cool. Now, you also mentioned that the Koolpak boxes were initially designed to cater for sea freight.
Yes.
Which is typically short time frames, right? How long can Koolpak keep goods fresh for? And is it suitable for sea freight haulages from China to Australia, for example, which typically take 3 to 4 weeks?
Okay, so we are out of cold chain for that short period of time. So essentially, we're polystyrene. What polystyrene does, Koolpak can do. So we've shipped frozen consignment from Cairns in summer to Perth. journey was 36 hours or 34 hours. Product arrived frozen. The receiver opened the box and showed the video of the gel pack. So we're not limited to the thickness of our thermal liner. So our standard box is 6 millimeters. We can make it 10, we can make it 18. So we have options depending on the customer requirements. But what is interesting to note on that is that polystyrene is single use on a plane. International air transport regulation, we're not restricted to single use. Fiberboard is also restricted to single use on a plane in comparison.
Awesome. Great response. So as a user, well, next question, as a user of the system, the tracking and return journey is critical. Could you walk us through how the app or platform will show me when my boxes are out, when they're returned, how many uses they've had, and what programs you have in place to ensure high return rates and minimize losses?
So it's a very broad market. Some companies have full chain of custody, others don't. That's where a leasing model or things like that might come into play, where somebody doesn't have that custody. So they might not buy a box, they might lease a box for a journey. But essentially what our app does, if it's scanned, then you have geo positioning, temperature log, and those sort of details. So when a box, from our perspective, when we sell a box, or actually when we make a box, we know where it was made and who made it. We know who it was sold to. We know how many times it was used, confidentially, obviously, and then it can get scanned off at a recycler. So, the owner of that box has that full history that can be written to a blockchain, or it can go to their private database. But what that does for the project is provides transparency, which is key to the whole project.
Excellent. Excellent response. I think you've answered this next one, but I just wanted to make it really clear. It can be a short response, but are you planning on expanding your product range to diversify outside of Koolpak?
In terms of other size boxes, or in terms of other hardware to facilitate Koolpak use?
I think you could probably weave both those in.
Okay, so at the moment, we do have two standard size Koolpaks. We've got the 56 litre and the 34 litre. And as I did touch upon in the deck, the system comes complete with the lid, the base, the thermal liner, and the track and trace. If airline approval is not a requirement, there is the potential to put the thermal liner inside, for example, a collapsible crate, or even one company we're talking about in Thailand who does have their own recycling facility in a fiberboard box, because they still get the temperature tag and the geo liner. But in addition to the Koolpak, we're all about building the systems to support the use. So we've recently, with the help of Alexi, our blockchain specialist, designed a gate scanner, for example. So at the moment, we scan our boxes with a mobile phone, battery free. Doesn't matter if you're iPhone, Samsung, you can download the app and scan a box. The gate scanner is actually capable of scanning all three tags in the box in one smooth motion. It speeds things up. It removes the need for people to use their own personal mobile phones or a company mobile phone, and that data then gets sent straight to the cloud or the blockchain. Another additional piece of hardware which we developed for the Tangaroa trial was what we call the Koolpak Transit Pack. So the Koolpak Transit Pack is designed to carry 40 flat-packed lid spacers and liners, nice and neatly inside a polypropylene container, and that was used to send the Koolpaks from here to Perth. And then when they came back from Christmas Island, they were wiped out, flat packed, and sent back from Christmas Island to Perth. And that's the sort of thing that some companies that we're talking with already in Thailand and Indonesia are really interested in looking at. And we're even, in terms of our pharmaceutical company that reached out to us last week, we're actually looking at developing a thermal liner which is large enough to line the actual transit pack, so that the boxes can just be packed inside of that for protection. So and then the other request was for a 5 kilo box. So changing the formwork for the actual liner is not difficult. It's just a matter of being able to do these things at a commercial scale.
Cool. All right, one more question.
I'll just jump in there,
Go,
but
Pete.
only Koolpak can do that because of the IP protection.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, good touch there. One more question on the product. So will you build the robotics in-house or license external tech to drive the automation?
Okay, we have already designed the automation for the machinery, and so each of the machines is automated in the fact that a person can put a thermal liner blank, as we call it, which is a flat sheet of thermal liner, onto the machine. The machine will then take it and do its process. As an example, if it's a sealing machine, it will do the seals and then move the material out of the machine onto the other side, ready for the manual, exchange between the machines. That's in the phase 2 machinery. The phase 3 is when we remove the people. That automation has not been designed, but we would be open to look at externals for that, but we have the internal capability to do that if we need to.
Awesome. That's a great response as well. So now I'm just going to jump in a little bit more about market opportunity and expansion as the next category. I've only really got one question around that from everyone viewing. So, and I know you've expanded a little bit on this in the presentation, but which countries in APAC are the biggest opportunities for growth here? And do larger populations equal a bigger revenue opportunity?
Okay. So the ASEAN region is a great region for manufacturing for so many reasons. Thailand, top 20 seaport, principal material supplier there, but large offtake opportunities. CPF, one of the largest, food producers in the world. Indonesia, great opportunity. 13,000 islands. Hot country, out of cold chain transport logistics is very challenging. So, this equatorial belt is very attractive because obviously temperature range, moving product and things like that.
And it's the same with Vietnam. That's got a similar opportunity, as well as the Philippines. So, but the Indonesia and the Philippines have got the elephant in the room called packaging going down the streams, so that they've got a added incentive to fix that, because they were highlighted last week in some press where they were in the top 3 in the world, actually ahead of China. So these have to be addressed. It's not negotiable, and because everybody's coming under the scrutiny of reporting.
And just to jump in there, and everything that Tom and Pete says is absolutely correct, but our move to manufacture in Thailand is an economic move. Australia will remain one of our target markets. We've already got the demand here. We're going to have staff here. We've already spoken with Sekisui. They have a facility right near the Brisbane airport that we're going to be able to use as a distribution centre should the need require. So Australia still remains one of our target markets. Relocating to Thailand is a manufacturing economical necessity at this point.
As an example, Australia used about 10 million polystyrene boxes last year. It's
and it's forecast to be just under $2 billion USD by 2030. So
Awesome.
chance for the Olympics.
Excellent. Time for the Olympics. That's great. All right. A little bit on commercial model and the traction so far. So we've got 2 questions here. Now, what does and would the licensing model look like? And what traction does the business have so far on that?
I guess there is a huge audience waiting to see TomKat build the machinery and bring it online. No doubt about that. There is a large number of people sitting on the fence waiting to see if we can do it. The simple thing is we've already done it. in the fact that we have an airline approved box. We can make the box at the commercial standard already. That's already proven. We've done that with the pilot machinery. So it's a simple step for us in that it's just scale machinery, higher capability and things like that. As far as the licensing side goes, that's open to discussion on the next steps in the project. Really, we're open.
Very strategic.
Yeah, strategic. As with our IP, it is an onion, but the door is open, and we encourage interested parties to come through the front door rather than try and work around our IP, which is very tight, as well as the material input supply.
But also, Jacob, I've been in discussion with the Netherlands, with some serious people in this packaging and smart and intelligent packaging space at high level, and they have got projects ready to go. And, the Netherlands leads the world in agribusiness, so that's we're already having those discussions, but you don't want to show your hand too early because the price might be double. That's as simple as that.
Yep. And more of a pointed question: when will you reach cash flow break even? Just a direct question.
So it'll be 2027. So the pilot machinery builds the sales funnels, but for the phase 2. Gets a product out in the market, but until we bring phase 2 machinery online, we're operating on the pilot machinery, which is not as efficient. That's where Thailand gives us that significant advantage, where we've got a lower labour cost country. It's also worthwhile to consider that the BOI gives us potentially up to $15 million worth of tax considerations, and they can sit there until you're revenue generating and on those tax offsets, etc.
And this is probably a really good time for me to jump in on this one, because I was meant to say it when I was talking about the pipeline. As I said, basically the Koolpak is like a Pokemon. It's forever evolving. And back in July, we actually applied for an National Australian grant, and then we hadn't heard anything. So the figures from that haven't actually been tied into these financials. And then as things happen, on Friday, we received an email. We're still in the running for that. They know that we're planning to offload, to relocate to Thailand, but they've supported the Austrade and DFAT have supported Tom and I with the trips to Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand. So as part of the 2040 More report, our Australian government is actually really, really keen to see investment in Southeast Asia. So the terms of that particular grant would be matched funding of up to $4.2 million. Now, as I said, we're still in the running. We haven't got it yet. Yeah. We responded to them yesterday. So, that could change the financials significantly. But like I said, it's not in the financials because it's an unknown, but it's definitely nice to know that we're still in the running for that one.
Yeah, and that's supported by the sealing machines, which is the better part of $4 million, which are Australian design and made. So it's not like an Australian grant would be going offshore. It would be invested in Australian manufacturing capability.
And employment.
And also Koolpak is a net exporter.
Yeah.
Because our head office is here. And so we're basically an exporter of IP.
Awesome. All right. Now we've only got really about 5 minutes to get through a few more questions here. So ideally we have, 3 or 4 questions in us if we can make them succinct responses. And then we can let everybody go. But next, I want to just focus a bit more again on that offtake agreements and the demand and scaling, right? So with regards to the offtake agreements and the LOIs that you mentioned, when do you expect to know if they will eventuate or not?
Okay, it's always been a chicken and egg. It's very, very hard for a company to provide a locked-in binding letter of intent when you don't have the manufacturing capability to supply. So the pilot, building those sales funnel with the pilot is the way to turn those letters of intent into binding offtake agreements. So we'll be doing that in 2026.
Awesome. And can you explain how the offtake agreements are established? How can these get ramped up over time? Do you need to hire more commercial sales, GTM scale to scale these takeovers?
Okay, so as it currently stands, even if we brought phase 2 online, the current offtake agreements would far exceed manufacturing capacity. The audience is already growing, as with the samples in the US for the quick service restaurant. So sales is the least of our issues at the moment. It's more about bringing the manufacturing capability online.
Yeah, sounds like it. Leads well into this next question, which is, if all of the MOUs or LOIs eventuate, it looks like production won't be able to meet demand. So, which is a good problem to have, right? But how do you plan on managing that?
It has to be a strategic sell, as it was touched on before, that who you align with and the accounts you have lead to something better the following year. Because if you've got limited production, you want to make sure that it sets in play your ammunition for your exit timeline.
Yeah.
It's like we have very deliberately picked very stressed trials to take it to the maximum so that we can always come back. But to do the hard ones first, that's what we're doing, and we're ticking them off as we go.
And when we know who our key strategic players are, they will be the first ones we sit down with and discuss IP licensing, because that then means that they can meet their own demand and we can continue to meet the increasing demand we see every single day.
Yeah,
and they're exceptional reference customers as well. Especially the US, they're very tough customers, and I've worked in the US and I know them very well, and they'd be a very good reference. It's the same as CP Foods and a number of others, and same in the pharmaceutical. So that helps you to that, I call it Horizon 3. So that's why we're very careful where we play.
Okay. Excellent. I think we can get through one last question, which is great. We've almost made it all the way through. More around the circular use and logistics, and I love Kat's response to this one. But how do I manage to get 30 uses out of the TomKat box, right? Like if I air freight something, how do I get my packaging back? How do I get that 30 use?
Okay, so you don't necessarily have to get your box back. It can be reused in its landing destination. So, when we're talking freight, we're talking e-commerce, which could be, to your close customer. It could be air freight to another country. So there's so many variables in that. But in that air freight example, if somebody was sending a product out of Australia to Thailand, then the box would be reused in its landing destination. That's the most efficient way to do it. And so it's on a ledger and then off a ledger. So that's the great thing about Koolpak Track and Trace. It allows asset management. So you have a product, a box, it's on your asset, you send it to another country, it's off your asset, and there's the exchange and the value of that box. That's how that would work.
Or if say, for example, you're looking at the Sunshine Coast, where the fishing industry send a lot of product to countries like Singapore, and then Australia actually imports a lot from Singapore. So then you would actually look at a two-way partnership within your own company.
Yeah.
So if we were sending fish to Singapore and then somebody was importing a different species of fish or seafood from Singapore, then the box comes back. So it really depends if it's B2B, B2C, whether you amortize the Koolpak over time, which is what the bakery people are looking at doing, whether you do the leasing model. At the end of the day, whichever way you go, the problem becomes easier the more Koolpaks are in use.
Yeah, and there's a lot of interest from logistics companies to come on board the project to handle that side of things. Australia has a company called Chet Brambles, which features in the top 5 sustainable corporations worldwide. They build a business on supplying a pallet, and Koolpak's no different.
Awesome. We have one quick last question that's come through. Have you had much interest from cosmetic brands and e-commerce? It's been described as a huge growth market.
Haven't had any from cosmetics. E-com, yes. We've discussed, I guess the home food delivery comes under e-com. We have discussed using, Koolpak for those type of home delivery things, and they are actually the really low-picking fruit, because I believe research shows that if the consumer likes the particular home delivery service that they're getting, the reorder is very, very high. So basically, if I ordered my home delivery and now I get it every Monday, then I just wipe out my Koolpak and it gets ready. The deliverer picks up the Koolpak, my empty one, as he delivers the other one. It's a really, really good use of our track and trace, especially the temperature, because if I've been told that my box is going to arrive at 3 p.m. and I don't get home until 6 p.m., I can't argue and say that my chicken's gone off, because the temperature was never meant to last that long. And we live up here in far north Queensland, and I have a few friends who actually do use one of those particular home delivery things, and they actually stop using their service between October and February because the particular packaging does not keep their product cold.
Awesome. That was fantastic. I'm going to wrap things up there. Thanks so much for that. I love working with your team so far as well. Thanks for your time today as well. And also thank you for the audience for attending. So currently, as you're aware, expressions of interest are now open. And the upcoming investment round goes live with the raise on Tuesday, right? So submit all your interests. If you want to have a further conversation, I can connect you with Tom or Kat to further that along as well. But yeah, please reach out directly. If there are any additional questions, more than happy to answer them with you. But congratulations again, Tom and Kat. Excited to see Koolpak continue to scale globally and leading the way in sustainable cold chain packaging.
Thank you.
Reuse first.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Enjoy the rest of
Jacob.
your day, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.